Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Buddy Study Group for Worksite Solutions. And I'm not going to lie to you folks, today is going to be an experimental version of the Buddy Study Group for Worksite Solutions. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun, I hope. I hope you like game shows. We're going to play The Price is Right today, and that's going to, I think, teach us a little bit about group long-term care pricing. So, as I could throughout the day, I took Claude for a spin and said I wanted to create a game show around group long-term care pricing, I hear game show. Can you create the prices right for me? And well, as we've always said, with a lot of the AI solutions that are out there right now, you are really only limited by your imagination. And I guess that's the case here because we're going to go through some pricing exercises using this Price is Right model. I'm not going to split everybody up into teams or anything like that. But I'm not going to call anybody down to contestants row. I may, compel you to get your pet spayed or neutered, as they do on the show. But I would like to take you through some of these questions. I would love it if you would participate in the chat, by logging some bids in response to some of these questions that we have here. I think we're going to learn quite a bit. I learned a little bit myself in going through this. Of course, I'm trying to make sure that the prices are as accurate as possible. So I will be, checking these with our calculators. But I will say the pricing here is all pulled from real and recent proposals. And I think without further ado, let's get into it. So it's designed to be done by teams. I didn't really have enough time to do the full mechanics of the game show. So I will take the first two bids for each question and we'll just compare them against each other. I think instead of team premium and team benefit, we're going to do team benefit and we're going to do team value. Okay. So if you don't know the rules of The Price is Right, you're going to be asked a question about a specific product in a specific scenario, and you are to bid on what you think the correct price is or the correct answer is, and you want to be as close as possible without going over. There are a couple of different games in this, but this is how round one's going to work. It's just like Contestants Row, okay? So here's our first question. This is from a live proposal of a 2000 life employer group. We are asking about a 35-year-old non-tobacco using employee looking at $100,000, and no cheating, by the way, of the standards group term to 100 with long-term care, 6% acceleration, 5% compound inflation protection on the monthly benefit. I would like you to submit your bids on the monthly premium. And again, I'll take the first two that come in. You can either use the chat or you can say it aloud if you think you have a good guess. But give me your bids and we'll see how close we get. The questions will get more complex over time. We will learn a lot more about the products besides the pricing for a 35-year-old. Don't be shy. You might just win a brand new car.
I'll say $28.
$28, okay. We have 28, and I had Alfred in there with 25. Or, excuse me, 45. Okay, what's our actual price?
Oh,
57.58. So we had Alfred actually winning that one with the closest bid without going over. Let me just double check this just to see how close we are. For a 35-year-old, 100,000. Yep, right on target. All right, good job, Alfred. Next question. Exact same plan design, same riders, same non-tobacco status. I hope you remembered the correct answer from the last question. But now they enroll at age 55. What is our new monthly premium? 20 years older, what are we going to come in at? Alfred says 84. Mark is saying 200. Okay, let's compare. What do we have? Mike says 250. I'll keep that in mind. 250 on the dot. Wow,
Whoa.
nice job, Mike.
Don't you
You're
wish things
supposed to
were
win.
special?
You're
Yeah.
supposed to win $500 or something like that. Maybe 100. I can't remember. You're supposed to win money. I would ride your hot hand. Yeah, so the lesson here, waiting 20 years more than quadruples the price, or just about quadruples the price. Yeah. Um, Single biggest driver in pricing in group and individual for the most part. So uh it gives us the answer as well. Age 45 is about 115 bucks. So
Yeah, good rule of thumb is the price doubles every 10 years. So 20 years doubles twice. Makes sense, right?
yep, yep, 100%. And it gets a little bit steeper when we start to get, for many carriers, into our late 50s, early 60s. The premiums are, really going to get steep the way they're built. Trustmark's Life Plus Care, and from what we're hearing from Aflac, they tend to be a little bit friendlier at those ages, just for your information. But yeah, nice little lesson there. Okay, now we're looking at Transamerica. It's for 1,000 life Colorado employer. There's a 35-year-old non-tobacco employee, 100,000, and 4 and 4 acceleration. 4 per month for facility care, 4 per month for home health care with extension and restoration. Give me your bids.
Max cash value or max face amount?
However we ran it. So I would assume high cash value. I'm seeing 75. I'm seeing 52. I'm going to put those in. And what is the line? And the actual retail price is 101.69. Okay. So we're paying a little bit of a premium for the cash value here. Um,
Yeah, also
I
remember that the 100,000 is really 300,000 of total benefits because the extension doubles it and that restoration restores that life insurance. So it's more benefit than it appears than just the 100,000.
Correct. And for this 1,000 life group, just to give you an idea of what the offer was, GI ran to 150K, simplified issue to 500K, which is just one of Transamerica's hallmarks. And look at Transamerica for groups of 5 lives. All right. On Trustmark's Life Plus Care. This is a good one. We're going to learn something here. An enrollee adds the child term rider. $10,000 of guaranteed issue coverage for dependent children through age 25. What is that monthly cost? And by the way, if I remember correctly, this covers all children. We don't talk too much about the child term rider, but this is one of those benefits that can, certainly enhance an offering, and it's an opportunity for other premium. Mark says $8. That's what I was thinking in my head, if I'm being honest. 28 for Alfred. Alfred, I think you are logical, assuming this is going to cover all dependent children. You would normally think a price like this, but I actually lean a little bit more toward Marks because these generally come at a pretty good value. $5.89. So just think about that next time. If you have a group that's enrolling, if you get a proposal back and somebody asks, what's that? Just remember that there is some pretty good value on these plans. Again, it's just a small life insurance for dependent children, but it's also life insurance for your children, right? At the end of the day, I think it certainly matters. And we do get groups that ask about it and insist that we are able to offer it. Transamerica's version is simpler, according to what we have here. $2.50 a month per $10,000 call covers all children in the family at one rate. So excuse me, trust marks actually may not. See, I told you we would learn something today. So that's something for me to actually go back and research. But 589, pretty darn good deal. $2.50 a month for $10,000 covers all children. Pretty good as well. Okay. Our team ran a full client census, 1,948 eligible employees through our census quote engine. 25,000 death benefit, $50,000 long-term care pool, $1,500 a monthly benefit, and 5% inflation. So this is
Is it whole life or term life? It's a big difference.
it's a good question.
Probably term life.
I'm going to say it's the term life. What is the average monthly cost per employee? Now, this is hard. We don't actually have the average age, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. Why don't you get your bids in per employee per month? Remember, this is 25,000. We've been doing a lot of the pricing on 100,000. And I will say, I had two $25 bids. Does anybody, so we'll say 25 and 35 were the first bids that came in. So Chris and Mark are on team 25 and Mike is on team 35. Actual retail price is $31 a month. So I'm sorry, Mike, you overbid. And we have Mark and Chris taking that one, but pretty split right down the middle. Those were two pretty good bids. So $31 a month per employee buys every single employee life insurance plus real long-term care coverage. So $31 times 1948. Somebody do the mental math. 31 times 1948 is about
60,000. There you go.
About 60,000. Okay.
Chris and I use calculators.
Nice. Thank you guys. A pile of money, correct. So that's why I think the lesson to take here, there will be employers out there who may have the ability to fund such a benefit, but you also have to make sure you're keeping things realistic. You're keeping things within the client's budget. I think before you go recommending 60,000 a month in premium just from the employer, number one, you should probably expectation set and say, we don't have to fund every single one of the employees. We can look at a smaller benefit if you're interested in it for all of the employees. But I think just level set, that is something that's going to give sticker shock. But I like it posed in terms of per employee per month in this case, because they can think in their head with much smaller numbers. Okay, if I do my 20 executives, I can look at this for $620 a month roughly, based on the PEPM. So I like that. Same design was priced at $37 a life with Trustmark, $41 a life with Chubb, right? So census quote can really kind of put things in perspective for you, and the PEPM is pretty nice to have a very quick metric of examination. So we've made it to round two. Thank you for submitting your bids. There were some wonderful bids made. I thought the 25 and 35 that was split pretty close down the middle was great. And of course, Mike hit it on the button with that $250 bill. But now we're going to play higher or lower. There are going to be some questions that come in. There's going to be a price or some sort of pricing discrepancy that is named, and you are going to have to say, is it higher or lower? Is that actual retail price, that answer higher or lower than what is listed? Okay. Back to the standard in Kansas. 45-year-old non-tobacco employee pays $115.42 a month for the 100K term to 100 long-term care design. Their coworker, same age, same benefit, uses tobacco. Is the tobacco rate higher or lower than $140 a month based on the non-tobacco? I'm seeing a lot of hires, a lot of hires. So for both teams, I'll put higher because I don't see anybody saying lower. Actual price is 169. So you can see that's 46% on the tobacco load. We don't often go down the rabbit hole of looking at tobacco versus non-tobacco pricing, but it is a heck of a premium load in this case. That's another rate I would be really interested in actually checking on the calculator because that is quite significant. Yeah, it smokes the rate, so to speak. Yes, good one, Chris. And from our calculators, I can verify, yeah, 46% premium load. That's pretty crazy. Not something we look at every day, but it's nice to know. All right, 4% or 6%. So this is the acceleration question. There are two live Trustmark Life Plus Care offers, both $100,000 benefit, both non-tobacco, age 45. The Texas Group's offer has 4% per month acceleration and costs $142.14. The other group's offer, 6% per month acceleration. Is the 6% version higher or lower than $160 a month? Okay, we're getting guesses kind of across the board. So I have one lower from Mark, higher from Jeff and Chris. Anybody want to wager a last minute guess before I reveal? I'm gonna put higher and lower. Actually, Mark, would you like to be team value or team benefit? Well, that'll determine where the points
I'm
go.
always on team value
Okay, perfect. All
in
right.
life.
And the actual price, 147.07. So actually much lower. And I think this is something that's really eye-opening. In this case, now we are, again, I want to, moving to Kansas, yeah, I want to really verify this across more proposals because it is comparing across states. And, you know, I didn't have a chance to vet this question as much as I liked, but I knew it was in the list of questions to actually help instruct us today. The 3.5% more premium to be able to accelerate 2% more of the death benefit per month is, yeah, exactly. It's a no-brainer, right? Um, I think carriers are willing to offer this because it's not going to necessarily, it's not going to increase your total benefit. Trustmark in particular has a lot of things that allow it to be a little bit more long-term care forward. They know the death benefit's going to drop down. At the greater of 15 years or age 70, there's a lot of things that are sort of built in and some extra education here, guys. The 6% option is not available in Colorado, Delaware, Hawaii, Texas, which is why we had that 4%, or Utah. The one in Utah and California that has the compound versus simple. I see what you mean. The group whole life for the standard. I think we may have a question around that in here. That's a good question. Let's see. So this will be a good one. Standards $100,000 quote, and this is term with 5% compound on the monthly benefit. 57.58 a month at age 35, I believe. Let me just make sure. Let me just make sure. I don't want to give people I don't want to send people on a wild goose chase here. 57.58. That's not what I'm getting. Regardless, Trustmark's $100,000 quote for the same case has no inflation protection at all. So this is actually going to be across carriers. Is Trustmark's no inflation rate higher or lower than 75 a month? This one's an
Feels like
interesting.
a trick question, right?
It does. It does feel like a trick question. Everybody says lower. So I'm going to put lower for both teams. What do we have for the actual price? Nobody called it. The answer was actually higher. So let me see the rationale behind this.
I got
Proposal
some sound
with,
effects, Jason.
yeah, interesting sound effects. I think the buzzer needs to be a little bit more forceful. I would really like a comically loud buzzer sound. Oh, there you go. Nice. I like it. I
Okay, you
should
can hear that one.
actually build that in. So let's see. Carrier chassis and filing matter more than any single feature. For a workforce averaging age 41, 5% compound growth on the monthly benefit was the single most valuable feature, came from the lower cost carrier. So yeah, when we're comparing across carriers, we got to think of a couple of things when it comes to pricing. Number one, does the carrier does carrier one have a standard set of rates versus a multitude of different rate sets based on demographics, right? That's one of the things that you do have to keep in mind. Chubb and I believe Trustmark do have different rate sets for different scenarios. Um,
Also, the standard's term to 100 and the Trustmark's term to 121. So I
that's
think I see
correct.
about 20% lower in this type of situation usually.
Yeah. This was a pretty big discrepancy for me to see. So I actually want to chew on that. Maybe after the game show's over, we can kind of look into that a little bit more. Um, but yes, you can definitely, take some risks in offering cheaper premiums if your coverage is going to end at 100 versus truly being permanent in the sense of being priced to age
Yeah,
120.
I believe this too because the standard also has a lot lower pricing at younger ages, and the Trustmark has lower pricing relatively at older ages. This is a younger person, 35, so I think it's
That is true.
correct.
That is true. Okay, well we'll remember that. Okay. Man, this this game show really likes Kansas. But at least for some of this question, we're not in Kansas anymore. Same carrier, different chassis, different state. Okay. Group Whole Life, California. This is for 100,000 non-tobacco, again, age 35 with the long-term care rider and the 5% inflation protection on the monthly and total benefit. Okay. And then we're going back to that Kansas plan where the term to 100 costs 57.58. Okay. Is the California GWL rate higher or lower than $100 a month? 35 years old. I actually know this question exactly because I purchased this plan at 1 year younger. So I have an intimate idea of the pricing, and we are divided. We have a few hires, and I'm putting Mark on team value. And Chris is the renegade saying lower. $100 a month. 135.67. So it is a good deal higher. And this is probably to be expected, right? Um, we're looking at whole life coverage. We're looking at the best in class inflation protection, right? So we've got a number of considerations here. We've got cash value, we've got inflation protection on the total benefit as opposed to just the monthly. Um, so what was the percentage? Did it calculate that for us? 2.4 times the term to 100 price. Now, it's a question to chew on for permanent coverage, guaranteed premiums and benefits, absolutely no matter what, and best in class inflation protection. Would you pay 2.4 times the price to be able to access this? Um, I would say myself, I think it's worth it. when you think of a number of different things, right? You also have to think about guaranteed issue underwriting. Um, Having that premium locked in with those benefits, the greater the benefits, the greater the value of the locked in premium, as far as I'm concerned. And it's certainly worth examining. I would agree, Chris. Of course, not everybody's going to have this choice. People in California, this is the only plan they really have through the standard at this moment. But it can it can get interesting if you have a case that could potentially qualify for multiple situs states. I think it's worth, you know, looking at a California situs. We've done that with other companies before to access this level of inflation protection. And yeah, again, agreed with you, Chris. Cheaper is not always better. I guess cheaper or more expensive is always going to be relative to the value that you get. And I think the value here is pretty immense, especially if you're just one individual making this decision and you're 35 years old. 45 years of compound inflation protection on the monthly and total is extremely significant.
Yeah, I would add too. Remember, you can buy half of the benefit amount because they'll let you go to very low minimums and get future benefits, that are bigger because the total benefit's increasing.
Right,
So you can even make it priced lower if you want. And the other reason I like that is the carriers give you a set face amount for the GI.
right,
So it just gives you like a total maximum amount that can get bigger without limiting you on creating the right price point for the client still. So I like that flexibility, although I agree. I think it's definitely different clients would choose different options for this. It's not like a slam dunk, just because they like the concept of a term product, even
right.
with LTC versus a whole life with LTC. So a lot of nuance, but I think you can position this as a value product that's also less expensive.
Right. And I think in the context of employer funding too, you're going to get different answers, right? And it will really tell you what the goal is. I'm trying to put something in place for my employees, but I'm also not trying to break the bank. That might be somebody who drifts a little bit more toward the term. And there are cases, even just absent the inflation, where we are talking with groups and we are between term and whole life. And I think I see many employers going toward term when they're talking about funding the benefit. It allows you to fund more people, or it allows you to fund at a higher benefit level and hit the same budget. But there are still some that say, I prefer the whole life story. I like guaranteed premiums and benefits no matter what. I want my employees to be able to claim on this whenever they need it. I hope my employees live past age 100. Plenty of different preferences there. So, next question, and just the way I've submitted these, team benefit and team value are completely neck and neck at this point, even though everything's made up, the points don't matter, the teams don't matter. On the older edge, a 70-year-old non-tobacco employee wants $100,000 of standard term to 100 plus long-term care. Is the premium higher or lower than $600 a month? $100,000 of term to 100 with long-term care. This does include the inflation protection. It is running the same scenario. So I have Mike says higher, Alfred says lower. That's all that I need, but I want you to be able to submit your bids if you would like. We have Chris and Mark coming in saying higher. So higher, higher, higher. So we got 4 hires, 1 lower. Alfred, you're the renegade here. Mark goes on team value. Team benefit's going to go lower. I know what I would say. Actual retail price, $820 a month. So I don't know if those of you who said higher were expecting $820 a month. I don't know if you were expecting maybe something like $80 more expensive, something of that nature. 14 times the 35-year-olds rate. That's just kind of an interesting metric. 70 is the absolute last age that you can get in on this plan. It is exactly at the borderline, and they are certainly going to make you pay for it. We said that pricing starts to get steep late 50s, early 60s. It doesn't necessarily stop getting steep from there. Um,
Yeah.
so
By the way, don't sleep on these. I know it can seem like
yes,
pretty expensive, but with the GI, the ease of getting the benefit, the nature of the demographic, right, having that need to fill the long-term care gap. We had two enrollments just in the last week or two. One was 23,000 of annual premium. The other was 19,000 of annual premium. So this one's like 10,000, right, of annual
right.
premium-ish. There are people buying big policies, even on the group side, because of just the structure and the nature of getting it in through an enrollment. So I think there's good opportunities there for sure.
100%. This is somebody who may have even tried to get long-term care before, right? And just wasn't able to, or wasn't able to find something in the budget, or underwriting didn't work out, one thing or another. So, yes, the price is absolutely steep. It's not going to be an easy premium to pay for everyone. But I think the folks who buy at these ages, oftentimes we see that it is folks who have really wanted long-term care, haven't had a good opportunity arise to get it, waited too long, whatever it may be, and they want to get something before that door closes on them completely. So I think it is a happy story at the end of the day that we're able to get these folks coverage. It just is going to sting the wallet a little bit. But with many of these plan designs, you get good value for long-term care from it. But again, this person is looking at $100,000, right? As a lot of these questions are. You can scale back that amount of coverage and get something that helps fit the budget. 'Cause a little bit is going to go a long way, right? Even if you stepped this down to 50,000 and you had $3,000 a month coming through the door, what does that mean to you? That probably still means something to you, right? At half the cost. So split that down to 410, right? So there's still a lot of room for individual consultation. And this is why we have calculators, right? At the end of the day, I want you to be able to dial into something that's going to work for you. At the end of the day, you'll still end up with coverage because it's still guaranteed issue at that age of 70. How small can a group go? Okay, I'm going to be honest. I did not even see this question before, so I have no idea what this question is. Broker calls. I've got a tiny professional office that wants group long-term care with life insurance. What's the smallest group you can place with Buddy INS's premier underwriting offer from the standard? This is a layup, guys. This is an absolute layup. Is the amount of employees we can look at with the standard with our underwriting offer higher or lower? I did not create this one. Every team says lower, and surprise, surprise, 3 applications. So how did we end up? We had team benefit and team value actually pretty close. Was that the last of this round? So no Price is Right is complete without a showcase showdown. So do I have any volunteers to represent one team or the other in a showcase? If anybody would like to be on one side or the other of the showcase, you don't have to show yourself. You don't have to be on TV, just through the chat. All right, Chris, we'll have Chris on one team. Chris, since you volunteered first, you can choose your team. I believe Team Benefit had $400. Team Value had 450. So you can choose. You can take Mark's favorite Team Value, who has the lead. Okay, so we're gonna go. Chris is representing Team Value. Who would like to represent Team Benefit as the underdog? Show of hands. Anyone out there? All you're signing up for is one more bid. Mark, would you like to avenge the loss of Team Value and oppose Chris in the showcase?
Sure.
Oh, Mike will
Oh,
do it.
Mike.
Okay.
Good, Mike.
Okay. We'll have Chris versus Mike. Here's the showcase. Fund the whole company. The employer funds $25,000 base for all 1,948 eligible employees. $50,000 long-term care pool each. Zero payroll deductions. Let's see. Which one is this? I can actually look at my Claude backstage to give you guys more information because it is not a showcase if you don't go through all the specs of the car. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Let me double check this one. I'm going to look at the actual proposal. It's important that we are accurate here. This is a term proposal, and that 5% inflation protection is on the proposal. I know that much. And it looks to be inflation protection on the monthly benefit only, if I am not mistaken. But let me just confirm that for sure. Yes, monthly 5% inflation protection, $25,000 death benefit, 1,948 employees. If you've got a good memory and remember some of the past questions, you're actually going to 116,800 is Chris's bid and Chris's team value. 116,800. Mike, do we have your showcase bid? I think
Ooh.
$720,000. Mike, I'm sorry you've overbid. That is annual. And Jeff,
Oh,
Mark
annual,
says
annual.
Mark
I didn't
says,
see that. Yeah.
oh, annual. Okay,
Yeah, I
okay.
didn't read that.
So 60,000.
Yeah, that would be annual. See, so that, yeah, I would agree more with what Mike did for sure.
Oh, 720, 720. Okay,
Yeah.
actually, Mike, you might be dead on. Annual.
Yes. Yes. Annual.
Yes. 116,800 for Chris, 720,000 for Mike. Mark was right in line with you. Um, Actual retail price, who wins the showcase? $725,104. That's a great bid at 720K. Um, I don't believe that will win you both showcases, but it does absolutely take the throne from team value and wins you the Price is Right today. Plus, you had a dead on bid. Mike, you're pretty good at this, my friend. If we ever do this again, we're gonna have to give you a little prize. But thank you everybody for participating. That was kind of fun. So there was, I think, a lot that we took away from this, and I think there's a lot of things that even if we spent 5 seconds on it, we learned a little bit about, right? Child term rider coverage is something we never talk about. The inexpensive nature of the child term rider for all that it covers across carriers, I thought was pretty enlightening. The tobacco load being so significant on these plans, right? Because at the end of the day, they are still on a life insurance chassis. 46% I thought was pretty high in the example that we had. Um, and by the way, if you're Mike, I think this is also an exercise in having paid attention because we had the $31 per employee per month. So if you got a quick calculator, you can be pretty dead on. But there are people just vouching for you in the chat in general. So good on you. Um, and let's see. Actually, let me just share the final learning from this. The 10K starter was 290,017 a year, $12 PEPM. And let's see. Trustmark came in at 869,000. Chubb came in at 956,000 a year. It's nice to see those monthly funded costs extrapolated annually. This is exactly like what you are asking for when you're asking for a certain monthly spend. And this is a $231,000 annual spread from, cheapest to most expensive in this case. Um, but yeah, that's a heck of a lot of premium. So just remember, always be sensitive to budget, but also if an employer does have a big budget and is willing to spend, that could be a case you realistically look at one day as a sale.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll add, the PEPM is really key, right? $12 per employee. The larger the company is, right, the more they have major medical costs, and this is a smaller percentage. But sometimes they have a unum plan and they're just looking to add the funding for the new hires. And then over time, you're actually getting all this business on the books. So it doesn't have to start off with a big amount or a big benefit to turn into a big case. And we're seeing a lot of those cases coming through.
you know, divided by 100,000, Mike, I'll send you the commission on that case. Still should get you a couple bucks. Might be able to get a candy bar.
A lot of
What else did you take away, Mark, that you thought was compelling from this exercise? First of all, I thought some people were pretty darn dead on in just kind of inferring the pricing.
I think it's, one of the things that I took away is when you're showing these to your clients who are not as familiar with long-term care insurance, to me, this actually gave a good perspective of like what the client experiences, like out of context.
Right.
Like they're seeing a lot of numbers and they're trying to track the bouncing ball here. For me, like having the benefit buddy that shows the price and value and kind of the visual is really helpful. You have to do that screen share because if you're just kind of reading the numbers out loud or reading off of an illustration, it can get really confusing, right? What age are we talking about? What amounts are we talking about? What features does it have? So that's what I took away is just have empathy towards, your experience watching this is the same experience your client has the first time they see this from you.
That's
So
right.
think about your presentations that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And without having seen anything yet, just think about what your client's thinking about. Like, what do you think this costs? Right? What do you think group long-term care costs? And you might get a wild range of answers, to be quite honest. You may have people who are experienced with long-term care or have seen individual long-term care, maybe never had long-term care insurance, but paid for professional care for a loved one. And they're like, well, it's probably no less than $1 zillion, right? But there are some who say, oh, well, it's term life insurance. And with long-term care, I would say maybe it's $4 a month, right? I mean, you could get the entire spectrum worth of potential answers from anybody. So, you know, don't presume anything. Always ask good questions. Always try to get an idea of budget, of comfort, things like that. But if you don't have the proper context, start small. Show them how affordable it can be. And if it's brain dead affordable, no brainer, you can always move up from there. But I think if you are trying to guess at or extrapolate a company's budget and you start at the moon, you're going to end up insulting somebody, turning them off. If you show them something that's too low, you probably will get a response of, oh, we might be able to do better than that. What can we look at say 50,000 for everything, whatever it may be. So I thought these were pretty neat exercises, and a lot of those things like child term rider, um, tobacco load, um, some of those things that we don't talk about as often. Employees actually go through that experience and read those things many times as parts of the enrollment. So it behooves us to kind of have a sense of the significance, right? The significance of using tobacco on the premium, the significance of the smaller add-on benefits that are actually quite cost effective for what they provide. Just keeping that in mind will give you a little bit more empathy for the employee as well. I think that's the key to educating employees well. You can't assume they know it all, but you can assume that they're going to read a lot of things, right? So you have to be able to represent those things. So yeah, I hope this was fun. Thought it would be a cool activity. I honestly woke up the other day and said, what am I going to do for the study group on Thursday? My answer was, I don't know, but I want it to be fun. And for some reason, I'm thinking of a game show. So shout out to Claude for putting that together. That was That was pretty impressive on Claude's part, as far as I'm concerned. So we'll definitely do something like that again, I'm sure. I think it's better than my classic Microsoft Paint T-chart. So maybe we'll try to do a couple more game shows. I always think it's easier to learn when it's fun, and it shows us a little bit about AI pulling our attention to things that we don't pay attention to as much. We got this wall of data, right? But sometimes we just choose to look at exactly what we're looking for and not the surroundings. So we'll definitely do that again. I appreciate you all being here. Hope you had fun. Hope you learned at least one thing. Be well, and we will talk to you this time next week. Have a good one, everyone. Have your pets spayed or neutered.